this to order. We'll get all ready. Madam Secretary, could you please call roll?
Mayor Gillespie.
Here.
Councilman Chambers.
Yeah, we here.
Chairman Smith.
Here.
Vice Chair Arthur.
Here.
Chief Johnson.
Here.
Ms. Carpenter. Mr. Daniel. Mr. Hayden.
Here.
And Mr. Mullins.
All right. Thank you. We do have the minutes that were sent to us, or we were sent to us. Now let's move the stuff that came to us. Is there any concerns or questions on the minutes? I do have one person that did want to add one thing to it on line number 76. She was, and traffic concerns added to Ms. Finnegan's comment on line 76. Is there anything else that needs to be amended and or changed or concerned?
Mr. Chair, we need to vote on that proposed amendment.
I'm going to ask our parliamentarian / Scott.
Well, I'm not much of a parliamentarian. I think when you make the motion to adopt the minutes, the motion is to adopt the minutes as amended.
As amended.
As amended. Okay. We'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes as amended. All right, I have
I'll second.
in a second. Thank you. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll move that from henceforth. All right, committee reports. We had a nice committee, and we've got two things that are on it that we discussed. We didn't really have a committee, but we did have a planning session. Mr. Scott, would you like to divulge?
Yes, sir. I'm just going to very quick recap. It was on April 8th, and in fact, those are part of the minutes you just adopted, but it was kind of a committee of the whole, it was a work session of the Planning Commission to discuss and go through the proposed multifamily standards as well as some of the R4 zoning requirements. Some changes were made. Let's see, I think a little bit of parking changes, some of the open space changes, like roof slope. We went through all those. The newer draft's been sent out, and of course, when we get to that item on the agenda, we'll go through all those in specific detail.
Okay. All right, we do have 2 items of old business. Project Travel 2040, the updated comprehensive master plan adoption. We are going to, we held on 3/18, but we are going to now have a public hearing on that particular item. I will open the public hearing, and the public's welcome to come down and speak to us and talk to us, and Ms. Finnegan, come on down and for the viewing audience, tell us who you are.
Hi, John Lee Finnegan, 211 Deer Trace. I know I've said this many times, and I didn't know if it was on the comprehensive plan, but it was adding that center turn lane on May Street, and I don't know if that's included. And I just talked to Mr. Smith because I was coming home noon yesterday, and there was a 3-car wreck right there at Spencer where you've changed the B2 to 01, and the middle car was pretty well destroyed, and I just have a feeling the person was turning left and that person hit him, and I'm assuming, but a center turn lane would have prevented that. So I just want to make sure that that's in there for consideration. So the center turn lane from May, I think, to right before Shady Oak, right before the business. Thank you.
Thank you. Center turn lane, nice. Sounds like something we can look at. Any other, this is a public hearing. The public's welcome to come down and speak to us. Would love to have you. The public hearing is closed. All right, is there any other concerns on the master plans before we send it on up to the big dogs and the folks that matter?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I think there was a discussion about changing the parking spots.
Yes, sir.
And then there was some discussions where it should be 3-story or 2-story, which if it is going to be 3-story, I think we need to go back and discuss the amount of green spaces and so forth.
Is that going to be on the number 2, or is this, was that part of the project problem?
That'll be the second item. That's the zoning ordinance amendment. Item 1 is the comprehensive plan.
Right, but right now we are on the comprehensive plan, sir. I don't believe that, we're not there yet.
I apologize.
That's quite all right.
Thank you.
All right. On the comprehensive plan in and of itself, is there any additional items that we wish to add to it? The Senator did mention that one thing, and that's something that I'm sure the City Council will take into consideration when they get it. Is there anything else that wishes? I'll entertain a motion to accept it.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign, that will be go before the City Council and make me look at.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just say, there is a prepared resolution. I don't know if you want to read that in or just by reference.
Okay. We'll read.
I spent several minutes putting that together.
And I was consuming that since we held it, that we read it, but I apologize. Do we, again, that's fine. Would you read it in full?
I'll help you out with it. Whereas the Prattville Planning Commission has the function and duty pursuant to Section 11-52-8 Code of Alabama 1975 to make and adopt a comprehensive master plan for the physical development of the city and its surrounding areas. And whereas the Prattville Planning Commission adopted Project Prattville, the most recent update to the comprehensive plan on January 21st, 2010, and whereas the City of Prattville and the Prattville Planning Commission began the process to further update Project Prattville in February 2020, and whereas the Commission has engaged in surveys, interviews, and public meetings of the community, including residents, educators, civic and religious leaders, and local business and industry leaders, and has studied the present conditions and future growth of the city. And whereas the Commission has created an updated comprehensive master plan entitled Project Prattville 2040, which is made with the general purpose of guiding and accomplishing a coordinated, adjusted, and harmonious development of the city of Prattville in order to best promote the health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare. And whereas the Commission held a public hearing on Project Prattville 2040 on March 11, 2021. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Prattville Planning Commission that Project Prattville 2040, the comprehensive master plan for the city of Prattville, including its text, maps, tables, illustrations, and other descriptive matters, is adopted and supersedes and replaces any prior master plan on comprehensive plan or comprehensive plan previously adopted by the Commission. So moved.
Second. Thank you. Do we need to vote on it again, or are we good?
Might as well vote on it again.
All right.
You just want to see it.
Discussion?
Just so.
I call the question. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All right. Opposed, like sign. Now it passes on. Now this next one is the multifamily residential R4 zoning text amendment. I don't believe we have anything to read in on this one. That way I don't mess up. But we are going to have a public hearing. And the public is welcome to come on down and talk to us. And I have opened the meeting up to the public to come down and speak, and Ms. Finnegan can come on down and talk to us. Tell us who you are, because you're right.
John Lee Finnegan, 211 Deer Trace. I think I presented to you before that I am not against apartments per se. I was against the MVH ones because of the amount of them and how crowded, etc. However, I did see when BVCV came before you and they presented a plan that showed apartments. And what I'm worried about is if this new R4 comes before you, that this might derail those plans to build those apartments. I think, from what I saw, they looked very good. And I believe they were 3-story, and I know the mayor is going to bring up about 2 stories or whatever, but I just want to be sure that you know that I am not against 3-story, and the way you're changing all the R4, they're going to look very nice. But I'm just worried that this is going to affect that one area right there. And I am not against, 3 stories going in there. I think there are only going to be like 180-something apartments, which I'm happy with. It's much better than 400. So I just wanted to let you know that I do not like the idea of just keeping it at 2 stories. I think some 3-story ones could be, built other places, and I think this would really deter builders. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there any other questions, concerns? This is a public hearing, college, welcome to come on down and speak to us. I'm close to the public hearing portion, and we will go on with the discussion. Mr. Mayor, now is your time to bring forth your concerns, sir.
Well, I think we did quite a bit of discussion about the parking.
Yes, sir.
And I know some of the areas are highlighted in yellow. Maybe I overlooked that portion.
We did mention park. I'm a truck driver, and I do not like tight parking places, and I get claustrophobic when I have to start trying to park in a little area in a parking lot. So I like to have a bigger parking spot. Were we adding that part to it?
Yes, sir. Well, it'll be page 2 of the draft, section 5, parking and driveways, the recommended. So right now, our typical parking stall is 9 feet by 18 feet. The recommended in here is 9.5 by 20 feet.
Okay.
And I think typically the width's not as much of the issue, it's the depth and the ability, the angle turning into it. But, the extra half foot may help a little more width, but that depth, that 20-foot length is what we think will really help people be able to turn in and then back out.
Yeah, I think great. Now, the other, and just saying, I did go through the one that's the apartment complex right there at, I guess someplace. I don't know what we're going to call it, what it's called, but
The Meadows, I think. I took a couple of pictures.
Okay.
Back on mine. Let's see. And I'll admit, I took some of the park and the Meadows. So actually, if you look at that picture on the right, that is the park.
yes.
That's actually a little parking structure kind of tucked back away. They're hidden pretty well. I think because this is the Meadows, the one on the right is the Meadows, where they have the garages and then parking in front of the garages. Let's see if I took more. Yeah, well, those are the two, at least for those parking structures. I think you were asking about the parallel. Of course, I didn't take a picture of those, but they do have some. That might be a little parallel spot back there. They do have some. I mean, again, they meet the requirements, but that's a little parallel spot, and they do have some that should pull in straight.
Now, I did notice on that one in Home Place that there was you had the garage, and then you had the spot in front of the garage, which was a parking spot, and so. I don't know if we would call that 2 parking places or 1, but I do like that. It's just like a regular house. We take that into consideration and say, hey, that is 2 places, or we won't say that's 1, or will we even address it at all?
I mean, I think we can put it explicitly in there. I think you don't run the risk of, I think like most people who have their garage have figured out they don't park in them in their storage. That could turn into a problem. I mean,
that's acceptable parking spots. We might say in,
yeah, I think you can certainly count it as your off-street parking, required off-street parking.
Yeah, there's some. All right. Any other concerns on the things that we're going for or changing on this one? We mentioned the other.
I was going to tell you, Mr. Chair, and Jason Fondermeyer our consultant, he's on, along with several others actually, on Zoom, and I don't know if,
Now, it's,
we can kind of, there were some changes. I think open space, I think the mayor's probably going to talk about open space. There were some additional changes to open space, and what I'm getting at is when we want Mr. Fonder, I mean, he's available, so just let me know.
So I know there's also some discussion, just a little bit, but about the distance between actual parking places, not like side by side, but the lanes.
The travel.
Yeah, it's going from one to another. And that was another example. We're talking about big trucks, small trucks, people trying to get in. Is there any more discussion about that?
well, how big are the lanes?
We don't right now have any kind of dimensional requirements in this section. We will in the general parking, but yeah, right now we don't get that detailed into the
So we need to,
design.
or can we go ahead and say, what's a regular street or single, streets, what? We want to say it's close to a regular?
They often are. Like I said, I hate to give you specific numbers, just I don't want to. I don't want to nail down a number and then it be completely, you know.
What's mine and John Lee's neighborhood, what's the width of Deerwood or Deer Run? Or?
Right, often they're between 10 and 12 foot lanes of asphalt, just depending on what they put down. So,
6 feet.
20?
I think
does that include the curb?
it may include the curbing as well, but I think what I've seen on plans is 26 feet for residential, I believe.
I was thinking,
We want to say,
I'm not at 50 foot right of way, which included, outside the curb.
but as far as the parking lot, we want to, you don't want to swap somebody, but you want to be able to.
I hate to put them on the spot. Can I ask Mr. Vaughn, what's your standard asphalt width?
Standard asphalt width,
Yeah.
24.
There you go, okay. So two 12-foot travel lanes.
And then the other 2 foot is the curb, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that
That's
sounds
pretty
good.
good. Do we want to say 24 travel lane?
We certainly can, we're talking between, right, I understand. We can certainly.
Again, that's another thing that does irritate me too, is if I'm in a parking lot and you got to try to maneuver around another vehicle that's coming and it's, we can say 24-foot travel line.
Now, we'll have to do some different language for like diagonal or parallel parking, but for just a standard 90 degree.
Yeah, we can work on that. All right, any other concerns? In the recommendation being sent,
What was the final discussion and decision about the roof pitch? I believe that was brought up.
the roof pitch, we did change it to
4 and 12.
4 and 12. We did, go 4 and 12.
What was recognized in the comp plan that we just approved to send over to council?
I don't think the comp plan had like specific roof pitch. The reason for the original 5 and 12 suggested roof pitch is at least based on the comp plan feedback is those appearance, and when we have those slides, we can go through those, but like a flat roof is, depending on the context, not as attractive, so the more pitch to the roof, it looks more like house-like, more residential. So that's what the original recommendation was 5 and 12. There's a developer here, and he suggested 4 and 12. I think the planning commission was okay with that. It's getting close to the kind of the low pitch. Once you get above 4 or 5, it gets to be the medium to steeper pitch.
Any other questions or concerns or changes that we want to discuss?
Mr. Chambers, on the roof pitch, are you good with this?
I personally like I think 512 feels more to me. Like you said, it does look more like a house kind of feel. And if you look at again too, I keep going back to some of these photographs that we were given as far as what the community looks, are preferring. And I think those pictures are more like 512 than 412. And that's what they're telling us they like. So.
And that was the original suggestion, was 5 and 12, so I mean, we can go back up to it. I just think in the work session, the discussion was, and one of the developers was just saying that he liked 4 and 12, and I think the commission was like, well, that's fine. So we can certainly change it to 5 and 12.
And so it's a different pictures of that.
I can't tell the difference.
I couldn't really.
Until they get up to like 7 and greater, it's hard to see the difference.
It was easier to, right, that's good.
For what they're worth, I mean, so these are the steeper pitch ones. There's your 4 and 12 and 5 and 12.
I personally can't really tell the difference. It's not.
Here's your
I
4,
personally
here's
see
your
a
5.
big deal with it.
There's a number next to them.
But I don't really see them. I don't, looking at it, I do.
There's a slight difference I can see. I mean, I'm coming from a construction background, but
You can tell me.
I think it looks better. I think it looks better.
We good with either one of them, but I just, I can really tell the difference between 7 and 4, but
You can check it. The glasses check.
I can tell that difference. I'm good with either one of them.
I know a good Dr. Moss.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. A lot of times what makes it different in your pictures is the height of the building, the structure itself. That a lot of times determines which pictures you use in your structures.
Yeah.
I mean, the higher you get, I guess the narrower the structure, you go to 7 or 8, 12. And when you got a low structure, then you go to your 4 and 5. Then when you're out at a barn or something like that, or a flat roof, you get that 2 to 12 or maybe 1 to 12, depending when you're out of it, when you're out in the field or something like that. Normally, that's what dictates or determines which picture you use, is the height of the structure.
Either one good.
So we're talking, still have discussions about 2 and 3 stories, right?
We have not had that discussion yet, so.
Right. So, I don't know if that's possible. It's a 2-story, this is what the pitch needs to be. If it's a 3-story, this is the minimum pitch. Something like that.
I would be fine with
Say it again, I'm sorry.
that.
If they're building a two-story, maybe there's a certain pitch level versus if it's a 3-story.
We can certainly ride that way.
Unless you just want one for all.
Personally, I'd rather just one, so it's all. I think it's easier on designers and staff.
Okay,
just
fine.
to-
Then 5 and 12 would be my pick.
I don't think it's worth, I guess we just, we're going to put on to the world. One go up. All right. Any other discussion? Yes, sir. On page 6, what was the final discussion that we were having on section G about the lighting? Wasn't it something about it going to be handled through the building maintenance? It was, and what we would say is my understanding is that we would write in building maintenance to somewhat police that.
Correct.
We would want, I don't know if we'd set a certain percentage of luminous that we would want. We would want it bright, but,
Yes, sir. We added, so section G, 4, and we did add a line about exterior lighting must be designed to a minimum average level of 1 foot candle, which is bright enough so you can see where you're walking, but hopefully not getting disturbed all the neighbors, along all pedestrian areas, driveways, and throughout the parking area. took out, let's see, exterior lighting must be maintained in accordance with the approved site plan. So what they turn in, but now building code or existing building code or property maintenance code still has some of that language about.
Right, I was thinking we're going to reference that in here, some shape, form, or fashion.
Oh, reference back to the building code or the?
Yes, wasn't it? And wasn't that part of the discussion?
I don't know if it made it to my notes. Again, we can certainly add that. I mean, that's always going to apply to all buildings. I mean, it's applying always, those codes that have been adopted. But we can certainly reference.
Property maintenance.
Well, we're on that. And it is on that last page. If you see the resolution, Seth, would you mind reading it in? It's a resolution, text amendment, multi-families, practical zoning ordinance. It's after
Yeah.
page 10 of the little thing.
Resolution text amendment, multifamily developments, Prattville zoning ordinance. Whereas the Prattville Planning Commission may formulate and recommend changes to the zoning ordinance of Prattville, Alabama. Whereas the Planning Commission has determined that the multifamily development and R4 regulations should be revised and updated. And whereas the Planning Commission has formulated an amendment to the zoning ordinance, and whereas the public hearing on a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance was conducted by the Prattville Planning Commission on April 15, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved that the Prattville Planning Commission hereby recommends that this Prattville City Council and the zoning ordinance, section 67 as detailed in attachment A and section 71 as detailed in attachment B. Be it further resolved that this resolution upon its adoption be transmitted to the Secretary of the Planning Commission to the Prattville City Council. So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Now, with the official or continued discussion of the matter. Any other concerns or questions on anything?
Yeah, I want to discuss the traffic studies.
Okay.
Page 9.
Page 9.
Traffic studies have been coming up time and time again when we talk about subdivisions. And I just feel like that is a tool that we are sometimes not afforded. It's not before us. And, to me, having a number of 100 or more, it would say 100 units or more, 100 units or so, just make this up on Highway 82, maybe somewhere on Highway 31, somewhere or another. That's not really that many. But you put 50 units right here on Main Street somewhere, that's a whole different ballgame. So for us just to say, because I know it doesn't have a clause in there, or as may be required by the city engineer. To me, by putting that 100 unit in there, I think there's going to be some pushback on that. Eventually, they're going to say, well, here's what it is, this is what it ought to be. And so I just think we need to have further discussions on that, and then also have that be a part of our long-time plans of development, whether it's apartments or houses or whatever it might happen to be. This traffic is something that truly needs to be very closely looked at.
Yeah.
Well, can we do something else in a weird way, like the opposite of that, like make all of them required except if you see fit that there's not one that's needed.
And in a way of saying that, in your case, if you want to put 100 units or 100 more units right here in downtown Prattville, the city engineer is going to say, whoa, it's got to be done. But if I have faith in our city engineer now, and if it changes, I'm sure the next one will be equally intelligent. I certainly hope so. But they all, we have charged them with that responsibility to ensure that the safety of and their read and understand those things. I like putting a number on there and say, okay, this whole complex is big enough to warrant one, but you gotta spend, what, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on a traffic study, to put in 15 houses or 20 units in an apartment. It just, I don't agree with that part.
And I'm not saying that because, again, 5 units is, I don't think anybody sees real off the community, no matter where it's put in. I really think that, just pulling the 100 unit out and maybe even adding on there is a request by the city engineer or planning commission.
I certainly don't see an issue with that. We want to say, and I know, and again, we were relying on the individual that's here that said, okay, normally it is 100 units, but if you want to say it as required by, it does put in stone say, okay, you got 100 units or more, but, or I believe that did it say in here, or we were saying, we can certainly add us and the city engineer saying that you need.
Ordinarily, the planning commission probably would not see so if it is zone, for multifamily and a site plan comes in for multifamily development, it would, as long as they meet, the planning commission would never see it, I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
You might see a subdivision, but you wouldn't see a site plan, you wouldn't see a variance request or special exception or anything like that.
Would we want to say the city engineer or the planning division or
You certainly can,
person?
but I would always defer to the city engineer when it comes to a traffic issue. So, I mean, you can put that to the planning, you can do both, but honestly, the city engineer would be, that's kind of his domain is roads and traffic.
All developments of 100 units or more may be required, or may be required by the city engineer. I mean, it's the 100 units, anything more than 100 units, it's got to be done. Or if the city engineer says it needs to be done, then it needs to be done. But I don't have a civil engineering degree, and they certainly get to college and they learn, and they have that responsibility that we've given them. And I don't, they're learning in that type of thing, and I feel they would know when that needs to be done.
I personally like kind of to leave it to the engineer's discretion and not put a specific number on it, me personally. Because
we're saying over this amount plus whatever this engineer wants to do, it is at the engineer's discretion each time. But we're saying, okay, 100, and again, we're relying on what other places do. But yeah, we can just, if the engineers want to say it's going to be done, then it's going to be done. That's not, if you want to take the number out.
So all developments as required by the city engineer, is that the way you?
something very similar to that, yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
right, I think it should be discretionary too, because if you want to put 99 units there, and it's not at the discretion of the engineer, or they want to put 101 unit there, it still need to be at the discretion of the engineer.
Right.
So, and it depends on the location of it as well, because on Main Street, well, that makes a big difference, but if you take it out there on County Road 4, where there's a minimum amount of traffic, then it makes a difference, because you really don't have many homes and a lot of traffic. So it would be good for it to be discretionary by the engineer, even though some of it may be mentioned in our provision, determined depending on what area is they want to put these units.
I'm good with either one of them. Because this one was saying, if you got a big development, you know you're going to have it. Or if an engineer says you have to have it, you have to have it. He's going to, and again, on your 99 example, he just say, hey, you got to have it. I don't have to, but if you don't want to put a number, hey, I'm here either way. We will scratch the number. All right. What else? Everybody? What else? Anything else?
We need to have further discussion on the number of stories. We had some on that one, and then you have a, I guess.
Right now, we have 3 stories, and my concern, Mr. Mayor, is that, I put my name on big loans before, and having to pay out $6,000 or $7,000 a month on a project, it's a lot of money, and certain things have to cash flow. If the lot is only 10 acres, let's say, and they want to do something that looks good, and it is 3 stories, and they do the math, and they say they have to have 80 units, and 60 units just wouldn't work. I don't want to hamper development because we're saying we want it to be this particular thing. I've looked at the units out there by the cabinet, or is it by the park units? I think they're 3-story. There's a lot of them that look good. I don't believe that we're going to throw off the equilibrium of the entire city by adding 1-story to apartment complexes that are in a particular area at a particular time. Now, if we want to say we don't want a 2,000 unit apartments or 3,000 in a particular area of all 3 stories, I understand what you're saying, but sometimes things have to cash flow, and they might need to put 3 stories in a particular area.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not making my decisions off whether somebody can make a
But again, we want to make a development, and we don't want to be a hindrance to development.
Well, as I'm saying, I'm not making my decision off of what's going to cost the developer $1, whether it's a roof line, the firewall that needs to be put in there. I'm here for the community.
Well, I am too.
Well, as I was saying, Mr. Chair, as I was saying, if you allow me to speak,
Absolutely.
is that if that's what we've been basing things off of, whether it costs $1 or a dime, that is not the right thing for this planning commission to be doing.
But not what I'm saying. That's not it. What I'm saying is that we are a planning commission, and we do plan on what we want to do, but what's the reason for the 2-story?
What's the reason for the 3-story besides making a dollar?
Well, I mean, if a project can work on the 3-story, why don't we allow them to do it? Why do we want to limit it to 2?
So, if I may interject, I know you've heard this from before, is I keep going back to, the 2040 plan and the feedback we got from the citizens, putting in the looks and things they're wanting. Granted, they're not necessarily going to be identical, but what they've shown us, and I don't know if you can pull that picture up or not, Scott.
Yes.
They're not 3 stories.
Yeah, so the lower the number, the more, it was a 1 to 5 scale. 1 was preferred, 5 was not. So these are your more preferred. Now, there are varying stories there. Kind of your less preferred. You can see that 407 is the least. These are some sample images that meet those.
But with the one that was going back on that one, the one that was in the far bottom corner,
of the good or the bad?
we're right there in this
Let's
place.
say I had less preferred.
So those are the less.
Those are houses there in the bottom right.
Right, but go one more of them.
And most of those are 2 stories, right?
I think bottom left would count as 3-story. It would say some of those are 2 stories, some are probably 1 story. I think that top center appears to be a 1
Yeah,
story.
the one at the bottom, that looks like it might have some kind of
But that's
storefront at the bottom or something.
yeah, that's made as a 3-story, and it works in that particular circumstance.
And then you got about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other pictures showing 2 stories. That preferred.
Yeah.
But to go back to some of my comments without being interrupted, I personally believe that the two-story is safer, not only for the residents, but also for our first responders when they have to go. Because I did get a flyer that shows when we have to go to homes, apartments, and everything else for citizens who have fallen and need the assistance of our first responders. There's some examples, but that's my preference. And I was also basing that off of when we're talking about the green spaces in that as well, because I did see something on the news today where Alabama's not ranked very highly for green spaces. And more people will be stacked into an area, more green spaces, I believe that we need. So, just my personal opinion, I think that make it for a safer community for our citizens, whether they're living in apartments or in houses or just here to visit for a very short while. So with that comment said, and need to bring up, Mr. Scott, have we followed up any about our mill apartments over here, or whatever they might be called, the Daniel Francis Store buildings, with them being 3 stories now, and how if this is changed by council, will it affect those? Because I know it's been brought up time and time again.
Right, no, I don't. So, will the moratorium, or you're talking about this moratorium, I guess either way, but the moratorium, no, because they already had a permit prior to.
Right.
The zoning ordinance, what I would probably suggest is if and when the council decides to, just a reminder that this is a recommendation of council. Council is the one who adopts changes to the zoning ordinance. If and when the council decides to consider this, we'd probably include language similar to the moratorium that, anything that's under construction or has a current valid permit would continue on with what they have approved, not be affected by this.
No,
Because that one's 3 stories, right?
that's
They
right.
might have a 4-story on a couple of them. Now, back to kind of the height discussion. Well, regardless of the stories, it may be worth discussing the height. My recommendation was just remove the feet, the height, because we discovered apparently we didn't really follow that very closely in a lot of places either. And it really kind of, I think, hamstrings a lot of design options, particularly with a pitched roof. If you're just generous and say a story is 10 feet, well, an architect the other day said probably 12 to 15 is probably a better rule of thumb. 3 stories, you're over that already, but that's with a flat roof. So that's probably something just to consider. I also recommend getting it out of that all R. That's a little confusing language there. But, either way, yeah, the Gin Shop Mill project, yeah, they have a valid permit there. They've begun work on the site, so I don't think there is any fear of the city shutting that down because of this.
Mr. Chairman, quick
Yes.
question. How many stories does it take before it requires an elevator to be installed?
That's a building code question, and that's,
I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
not 30, because there's plenty of 3 stories that don't have elevators. So, now, you can put an elevator in your house, if you want to, people do, and you can do an elevator on a 2-story apartment, but I don't know if or when it gets required by code.
I want to say it's 4-story on some Auburn that I climbed up and carried a couch up that did not have an elevator. Unfortunately. Y'all know the building code? Yes, sir.
4 is what I believe.
4. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know I have carried things up and down, unfortunately. Okay. Any other discussion on this matter? Or,
Right now, we have a commissioner who stepped out. I think we might need to wait.
absolutely.
Well, if you can, in that meantime, allow me to kind of go through the changes I've written down, just so I make sure I've got them in my record, so when we revise it. So on page 2, The parking in driveways will require that travel lane to be 24 feet. It's noise from Zoom. On page 7, the roof design, multifamily buildings must have a minimum of 5 and 12 roof pitch.
Yeah, if I might, I had a question asked to me, is, what would you do if the developer wanted to have areas in the roof pitches to add architectural character?
Good question. Well, they can always go steeper, of course. Now, there is already the requirement for the articulation in the roof line. In fact, that's section B. The maximum length of any continuous roof line is 40 feet. So that's already going to be required. The next change I have was page 9, the traffic impact study and plan. Traffic impact study and plan prepared by a traffic engineer must be furnished together with the site plan if required by the city engineer. So take out that threshold number, just if required by the city engineer. Those are the changes within the multifamily section 67 that I've written down. Did I miss any or anything else that needs to be changed? That answers that. So I guess back to, well, I don't want to end the discussion, of course. I was making sure I had those. So the section 67, that use table, I think the commission is still having a discussion on. Well, let me go and ask on the all R district section. You know, we had that discussion that in here it says maximum height 50 feet, 2 stories, which is pretty confusing when every other R past that is all on 2.5 stories, 2.5 stories, and 3 stories. And then actually nothing else is 50 stories. So I would recommend you getting into that so it's less confusing.
Which one is it?
It's on the behind the memo.
Oh, the 50 story, was it?
Yes.
Okay.
If the commission okay with that, okay. I didn't want to just talk about that because that's just a kind of confusing little section there. I'll go ahead and remove it while we're working on it. And if I can ask, is the commission okay with, as far as maximum height, I know that's more discussion on the stories, but just removing the feet requirement behind, just put that to
35 feet, any bad issue? Okay.
You've got a question. On the lot size, you've got it based off the number of family units. So obviously the more stories you had, it would be the more family units, which would be a bigger yard.
Right, and
so that would increase the availability of green space, right?
it would. Now, admittedly, we were talking about modifying that some. I don't know if I understand what was intended here when it was written, or is just a typo. So what Mr. Hayden's asking, the minimum lot size, you start with 6,000 square feet, which is not very big. It's fine for a single family. For each additional family unit, you add 5 feet. That's not much at all. So I don't know if that should have been 50 feet or, we'll follow what it says, but that'll probably need a lot of improvement, I think, going forward as well, or at least just remove that or get rid of it. Now, the lot size is certainly going to be determined by the number of units someone wants. The green space is really going to draw a lot of them. So there's no chance that a 6,000 square foot lot's going to have, multiple or several dwelling units on it. But I guess what, to get back to your question is yes, the larger the development, the larger the lot it's going to be, whether because of the minimum lot size requirement or just the fact that setbacks and parking and green space and all that's going to drive a larger lot.
Could we tie green space square footage to the number of units in the development?
The green space square footage is tied to the size of the lot right now. So.
Yeah. So technically, a 1 or 2 story apartment community would be potentially hamstringed?
Right, well, the number of stories is not going to affect the amount of open space. So if you have an acre lot, 5 acre lot, and you do 1 story, 2 story, 3 story, the open space actually will probably correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, I guess, yeah, it is tied to the square footage of the lot, or it's a percentage of the area of the lot.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we change the height from 3 stories to 2 stories.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with that.
Is that a second?
That's the same.
Thank you, sir. There's been a motion and a second to change the height requirement from, from 3 stories to 2 stories. We'll go ahead and vote. All in favor? You can signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. All right, that's item 6.
I'm going to abstain because my liberal side and my fire marshal side are in absolute, not liberal, I'm sorry, libertarian, and fire marshal side are in such conflict that I honestly can't say which way I need to go on that direction.
Well, that was my libertarian side as well, so I'm in agreement on that. And I do understand the mayor's position. However, I tend to go free market. Okay.
Mr. Chair, then I'd like to have further discussion on the green space then, on how it's going to be controlled.
Acceptable.
I like
We
that too.
can do something with that and have a larger green space requirements for more units. If that's what you want to discuss.
I would say if your green space was based off the lot size, but then have a multiplier on the number of floors. So if you had a 2-floor structure, it would require, say, 10% more green space. If you had a 3% or 3 floors, it would require, an additional green space allotment.
Could we just base it off how many units?
We could, that's just, your math starts getting tough. When it's just kind of absolute numbers like that, percentage is a whole lot easier. Just from
I like something like that better because you can just cram in so many people in a certain period space, and you're not giving more quality of life to the people there in the green space. You're just crowding up that green space.
I would, and I may need Jason to start to chime in on this one. I would consider, or maybe, and tell Jason that this is kind of crazy, for the open space. So right now, at least 20% of the site, look, this is page 3, at least 20% of the site must be permanently reserved as open space, and that's the whole site. And then there's a big discussion about the types and the improvements required. And that's based on the total open space. So 50% of the required open space must be improved and maintained as follows. It may be an idea to look at, if it's a 1-story development, to maybe be like 15%, 2-story 20%, and 3-story 25%. So that'd probably be easier. It's up to that percentage as the stories go. So I don't know if that's encouraging one way or the other, but as the more units are stacked in higher, the requirement for open space is larger. Is that?
Yeah, I'd say maybe more percentage though, difference between the levels. Personally, it's me.
Right. Well, right now, so 20% is just regardless of the levels. Well, 20, I mean, that's a quarter of the lot is going to be. And then we start looking at the improved requirements. You can't use your detention pond. Well, you can if it's incorporated into it as an amenity, but if it's just a standard pond wrapped in chain link fence, it doesn't count. Your setbacks don't necessarily count unless they're a certain size. So it's still going to be pretty quality types of open space, I think. But certainly, we can consider higher percentages, but that was just starting with the 20.
And some of that, again, is going to lead into the next probably topic about what are we going to include in that as part of considered green space. You know, are we going to say pool is part of green space, or is that going to be not considered green space? You know, like playground, you know, whatever.
And that's in that section A on page 4.
Yeah.
A lot of the things we can count toward it.
Right.
So we're
Page 4, right in the middle, subsection E. If you utilize some of these improvements or amenities,
Well,
it can reduce overall. Okay, we'll have to fix that if we go to the tiered system.
I do agree with the city councilor, the outdoor pool and the hot tub, I don't know that really all we counted as green space. All that to me will be seasonal. Is that the direction you were sort of going in?
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, that's not necessarily, like you said, seasonal plus, you know, I want kids to be able to actually get out there in the grass and have fun, do things, have enough space to do those things, and a big pool and stuff like that, cutting some of that out, that's what my concern is. But, you know, especially when you're starting to put 3 levels out there. That's why I wanted to make sure that if you're going to do 3 levels, that you're going to have enough green space, you know, for everybody to enjoy it, besides just the pool, which is seasonal.
Well, we can, I like that idea, adding a percentage, the 25%, if it's going to be 3 stories. You can put it in there, but you're going to have a little more green space. And so we can say 20% 2-story and another 5% if you're going to do 3.
20% for 1 or 2 story?
Yes, sir. And then about 25% for 3-story.
Oh, that's like a compromise. I don't know. I don't exactly know 100% of that added green space, but,
And then we'll add green space. Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Everybody?
So let me repeat that. So leave the 20% for 1 and 2, and then if you go to 3, it triggers 25%.
of the space has to be green space. Are we good? We vote? All good? Okay. Then is there any other concerns or questions, or we got, ready to go?
what was the final?
She didn't get the vote.
Oh, we didn't vote. No, I don't know. We didn't really vote, but we were kind of all in favor of that 25% for free storage. Raise your right hand. Okay, it's good.
What was the final decision on the swimming pool as far as
I believe we were leaving.
Splash pad? Is that the?
We did not, Mr. Mayor, we did not address that 100% on that one. But, Mr. Vice Chairman, you did have a comment. What would you?
My comment about the pool and splash pad, well, that's more, it's controlled. Whereas in a green space, you can go out to the children to play at any given time, but whenever you use a pool, so that's normally controlled and directed. So I would use that as green space.
Then it still applies to 3-story.
Then you want to say that I would like to encourage them to have a pool, because when I was young in an apartment, that was the thing that I like to hang out around. But I don't want to say that they can't, I don't want to take that away from anyone who lives in an apartment complex. Of course, they will probably put them in there just to attract people. That would be the reasons that I would say, hey, let's not address that. And there's green spots around the pool,
But what I was saying is that won't be considered as green space, not that they can't have it or shouldn't have it, it just won't be considered as green space.
I agree.
And then, I don't know if this is maybe an idea, but if you have so many units, then you are required to have a pool or something like that.
Yeah, F says that.
Yeah.
Does it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, if they have over 100 units, they have to incorporate something in the above.
I thought that there was a percentage thing that, you know, it can't count no more than, was there something in there that said
I think the
Well, it
simplest
says
thing,
got to use one or more of the approved amenities, but then it also said that if you use these, you get to reduce the green space.
Right.
I think the easiest thing to do is just be scratch pools from the green space concept, because that's really not green space anyway. It's kind of,
Okay.
That's a good point.
All right, then, all in favor of scratching the bull from the green space, raise your right hand.
A question on that, is that, are we scratching out all of I? Is that section E, well, not I, it's section E, number 1.
Section E,
Well, no, that is I. Okay,
yes,
that's right.
scratch section E, I. And so double I would go to I guess, or how we would do that. Well, we would scratch out. Yeah. Are we in agreement?
I agree.
I agree.
100% agree. Okay. Moving along, is there anything else?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hayden, so in E, right now the proposal is if you do one of these larger improvements, it would reduce your overall requirement to the 16%.
Yes.
Since you now have the kind of tiered, Mr. Hayden suggested maybe just saying you may reduce it by 5%. So we go from, well, we listed 4%, I'm sorry, 4%.
Mm-hmm.
So you keep the 16 from the 20, but if you go to the 3-story 25, it'll be 21%.
That'd be good too. Want to do that instead of scratching, or what we say?
Do what?
We gonna do that.
I like that in discretion, so there's no confusion
Okay.
personally.
All right, we scratch.
I'm sorry?
And then we're saying 16 and reduce, that was two separate things, is what you were suggesting, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah, just change it, the overall can be reduced by 4%, not to a certain number. So that'll give both the 25 and the 20.
That sounds correct. Anything else? And as amended, the resolution as we have amended, then I'm ready to call the question. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. I believe we are going on to the city council with that amended resolution for R4. Now, new business. Request to postpone on item number 3. Do we need to vote on that? There's a public hearing. What do we need to do, Mr. Scott?
It's fine, the petitioner sent in notification saying he wants to postpone the May meeting, so I think that's sufficient. You don't take any action on it.
That sounds great. We want to move this along. Maybe I'll kind of start playing this if we stay after 5. All right. Preliminary plat, Hedgefield, plat 5, McQueen Smith Road at Highway 82. This is a public hearing. Come on up and tell us what you do.
Max Long, Good Mills of Kaywood. This and the next item are the final 2 plats in the Hedgefield subdivision. We're looking at 37 50-foot lots, as you see on the map on the screen there, 1 60-foot lot actually. And then just to kind of talk about the next one, there'll be 30 60-foot lots in the next plat. We'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. We have any questions for the petitioner at this time? And these are all R3 lots, and where are they on?
That's correct. It's PUD.
It's a PUD, planning and development zoning.
Okay.
But like Mr. Vaughn said, some are 50 feet, some are 60 feet wide lots.
Yeah, I like those. We have any green spaces. We are concerned with green.
We do. The green space was put together to align with the PUD zoning, and you can see throughout the development we've accumulated that green space in each plat, and the total green space does meet the requirement for the subdivision.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner at this time? All right, if you have a seat, we will, does the city have anything that they would like to add, Peter?
Yeah, I did want to have a quick discussion, or just bring up to the commission, that's a good picture. So that blue and, the blue's outline of the proposed subdivision, the yellow and black, that's the county line, that's the Altoona County, Elmore County line. And this is kind of, just one of these kind of interesting situations where this Hedgefield subdivision is going to be in both counties. In fact, there are lots in both counties. And I just want to bring up for any discussion, if anybody had opinions on it. They're all in the city, so it's not really affecting the city any. You know, you get all the city services, all that, but at the county line, you know, you start, your taxes are different. You know, you have two different tax cards, school zones are different. So anyway, I just want to bring it up that we're kind of getting to the territories a little bit different just because we're starting to straddle the county line here.
And just questioning, and again, my complete ignorance of the whole situation there. On lot number 22, or when it is a lot of split in half, what do they do about that?
Talking about the school system?
Yeah, school system.
My understanding has been in agreement, and it depends on where that child is, or basically where he lays his head.
Yeah.
Better a bit. Or like divorced parents, Monday through Tuesday you go to Elmore.
I'm just curious. It's in the taxes, you have to pay taxes in both counties, or how that work?
You get you're, I guess,
Percentage.
you know, 2,000 feet are one and 6,000 feet from the other.
Just out of curiosity, I know nothing there, but just so I know. All right, this is a public hearing. The public is encouraged to come down here and speak and ask us any question, and we will ask the petitioner, and we will discuss it and find out your answers in the public hearing. Come on down.
I just have a real quick question. What will be the total number of homes in this, when this division is done? When Hedgefield is finished?
In the whole
shebang? Because number 6 would be the last phase, correct?
It will be the last phase. You caught me off guard right there.
Oh,
I should
did
know
I?
that off the top of my head. It's a little, about 130 lots, I believe. I'm not gonna get that wrong. You know-
Are they numbered?
Yeah, they're just,
They
They're not-
restart the number.
they restart on each plat,
Don't
so.
count.
Yes. There's around that number.
This one's gonna be, what do you say, it's about
37 lots.
37 lots?
In this, yeah, she's asking for the whole neighborhood.
So I think about 140,
140.
Yeah,
somewhere almost there.
might take a minute.
So you don't, I didn't mean to cause a lot of problems. I just was curious, because you were talking about traffic studies and everything like that, and so here, you know, you have how many's going in, and then, of course, McLean Landing and stuff, and things like that. You don't know?
I would mention, yeah, that this one, it does now connect down to 82, and it just make that full connection past the parks now. So there are two good, very wide far apart entrances.
So we don't know. Okay,
We're
thanks.
adding it up.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there, thanks.
All right. What's that?
I'm gonna ask how many total lots we should be to it.
Yeah,
That's all right.
that comes over there.
She getting credit.
Is that the whole, this part is going to be. We'll find the answer to that. Are there any other people, this is a public hearing, the public's encouraged to come down and speak? Anyone else? We will get the answer to that one. The public hearing is closed. Could you please read in the resolution?
Yes. Resolution plat, Hedgefield plat 5, April 15, 2021, whereas PRLD LLC is the developer of property presented at Hedgefield plat 5, and whereas proposed building is located inside the city limits at Queen Street Road at Highway 82, and whereas the public hearing on the proposed preliminary plat was heard on April 15, 2021, and whereas the required city department head has reviewed and commented on the proposed preliminary plat. Now therefore be resolved that the City of Prattville Planning Commission hereby gives its favorable review of the submitted preliminary plat of Hedgefield Plat Number 5. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, further discussion, does the city have anything they want to add? Does the petitioner, or do we know the total number of lots? Good, roundabout, is that the whole thing right there?
It's around 170 lots.
170?
And I will say that the entire development was part of a larger master plan, at which time what traffic study was performed early on when this was developed. And this ended up being a piece of that master plan development as part of the PUD, if that helps clarify some of the reasoning of the question.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other questions for the petitioner? All right, moving to general discussion of the general discussion here of the resolution. Is any other discussion? None, I'll call the question. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. It gets passed on one up. We're going to go to another public hearing. Then the public hearing is, are we not? Oh, yes, the next one is the public hearing on Hedgefield Plat 6. And this is the final. What we got?
Preliminary.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Max on Good Mills and Kaywood. This is 30 60-foot lots for Plat 6. Confirm 185 total lots in development. Sorry about that.
Okay.
And be happy to address any questions anyone has. Thank you.
This is Plat 6, which was the plat right there next to it. Is that correct? All right, let's look at Plat 6. All right, and how many lots are on Plat 6?
30.
30. Yeah. All right, this is a public hearing. The public is encouraged to come on and speak. You want to okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? The public hearing is for Chief. Did you read the resolution on that one, please? Sir?
Number 6.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, resolution preliminary plat time extension Park Lane subdivision.
It's Plat 6, Hedgefield.
Never mind, I turned it wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Resolution preliminary plat, Hedgefield Plat 6, April 15, 2021. Whereas PRLD LLC is the developer of property presented in Hedgefield Plat 6, and whereas the proposed development is located inside the city limits at Queen Smith Road and Highway 82, and whereas a public hearing on the proposed preliminary plat was heard on April 15, 2021, and whereas the required city department heads have reviewed and commented on the proposed preliminary plat, now therefore be it resolved that the City of Prattville Planning Commission hereby gives its favorable review of the submitted preliminary plat of Hedgefield Plat 6. I so move.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this particular 30 lot? Question? Comment? None? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Let's move on to number 6. Number 6 is a time extension for Park Lane, Ridgewood Road at Mount Airy Drive. That is Speaks and Associates, and they wish to do a time extension. This came before us last year, I believe, and this timing, or do we have any comment?
I'll jump in real quick. The petitioner's not here. Mr. Gill's not here. I was just trying to get him on the phone. It's certainly up to the planning commission if they want to consider extending, that's fine. Or if you want to push it to the May meeting, So the preliminary plat, they're good for a year. They received preliminary plat approval on May 21st, so that's planning commission meeting May 20th. So they'll be cutting close to the wire, but, well, I'll give you a little background information. Park Lane is the one that's south of Ridgewood, immediately west of Mountain Airy. It was part of that land swap between the city and a developer. The city got the Icon Grove north of here, just east of McRae Park. The first phase has been built. The subdivision is recorded, phase 1, recorded November 25, 2020. We're building the house up there, I believe, but here's just extending the rest of the preliminary plat.
Okay. So the house is out started?
On the first phase, yes, sir.
First phase? I don't see
Some-
an issue with extending it 1 year. We've done that. When it gets past the year, then it starts to be issues. But, okay, so phase 1 is started.
Yes, sir. Well, phase 1, the subdivision is complete, and the houses are under construction. So phase 2 and 3 are, presumably will be built next.
Okay. And what do we need to go from here? Do I need to entertain a motion to?
It's certainly the pleasure of the planning commission. If the commission wants to consider, the request was to extend. If the commission wants to consider that, that's certainly up to you. Or if you want to postpone it to the May meeting, you'll have a day of breathing room. But that's all you need. So.
I don't have an issue with postponing it unless there's a reason that we shouldn't. I'll entertain a motion to propose to postpone that request. Someone just to make that motion. All right, is there a second? Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What's the timeline on that?
It's 1 year, sir.
Okay, it'll be 1 year, so.
Yes.
Right,
And
so-
give them the 1 year COVID and everything else.
And the next planning commission is May 20th. So, well, let me double check while I'm sitting here. I just looked.
And I know we've done this before, but just say hypothetically, it goes past that in 1 year, he doesn't come back before us,
Yeah, he'll just have to apply again.
he'll have to reapply.
That's
Okay,
right.
Just for the record.
Thank you. All right, all in favor of approving the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign, motion carried. And we are going to go to time extension, request to postpone. This is for Dawson Mills.
Yes.
On Martin Luther King, I remember that one.
He previously sent an email asking to postpone that one. I think that's through, I want to say July, so we didn't put it in there because he sent us an email Monday asking to postpone that.
Now, how many postpones have our time extension on Dawson Mills? Is this the first one?
Very good question. Well, we didn't include it. It's had a handful. Dawson Mill, it's got 4 phases. The last phase, all 4 were renewed in 2020. I think in July 2020, I want to say off the top of my head. Phase 1, do you remember off the top of your head when phase 1 started? Maybe 17 or 18? Phase 4, the last one was approved in 19. And then all 4 of them, they've been renewed multiple times, and all 4 of them were last renewed in, I want to say in July 2020. So they're still within their year on those, but they have received, at least the earlier phases have received multiple times.
Is anything built out in any phases?
Yes, sir. The first one is, or at least the first phase is built, and they are building houses. If you drive up Martin Luther King, before you get to Moses, look to your left, you'll see them being built.
Okay, and
Now,
the other 3 have not done anything at this time?
not yet. They didn't start building.
2018?
Sorry.
It's been since 2018, or?
I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. We started putting it together, and then on Monday he requested to postpone it to a later date. So we pulled the information from the packets, but the early phases have been extended multiple times.
I I don't like, I mean,
Well, I will tell you, now, I think it's 2010, it's been quite a while, we were going through the minutes. That's right, 2010, 2012? Several years ago, there was discussion among the planning commission, and actually a motion made about, once you go with 3, the preference is to have like a committee meeting to kind of discuss that.
I remember that, and that's what I was going with.
Yes.
Well,
Now, again, Dawson Mill, yeah, he asked earlier this week to pull or to postpone this one, so we didn't include it in the packet. We're not going to put it on the agenda because he returned the letters, but.
So he gave no reason for asking, or is there a reason that might be revealed?
The city staff wanted to have some further discussion on that. We were going to meet him, and in fact, I'm not told the fire marshal, we're going to invite him to the meeting, and the county engineer, we're going to just have a meeting with him as well. So we're going to work some of those questions out before it comes back to the planning commission.
you want to move this one, or can we move this one to the May meeting?
Yes, sir, you can. They'll say the petitioner requested it already, so to postpone.
Well, we can postpone it to May, and then at that time, you know, if it's not ready, then we can, you know, work on it from then. If we need to just say, hey, you need to come back before us and resubmit everything. But if you're not prepared, because things that go over 3 years, and they need to come back before us, in my opinion.
And that would be something worth discussing in, once zoning ordinance is done, which is probably a little while, but the idea is to move right into subdivision regulations. So that may be something to kind of put in writing in the subdivision regs, maybe in your bylaws on kind of the numbers of extensions. Because at some point, they need to decide what they're doing. So.
Right. All right. But I don't see an issue with giving them until May to come up with what they're going to do.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I think there's going to be some challenges, so we'll be getting some, I think we're going to have some challenges worked out.
I don't know, we have a meeting scheduled for 2 weeks from yesterday, I think. I don't know. You're right, there are some challenges. Now, again, the plat and then those extensions, I think it's through July, so they have a little bit more breathing room than the previous one. I think that's a good question, what those challenges may be worked out, and then we'll certainly bring a report back to the planning commission. And it's certainly within your prerogative and scope to not extend or say, hey, you need to submit something else.
I just like to state for the record, I'm a very big believer in the 2 ways of egress and ingress.
Absolutely. And we will see all that in the May meeting. Take it. And if they don't have it, then I have issues with supporting those things as well. But
I can't guarantee on the May.
They come up with an answer.
Yeah, I say I can't guarantee on the May. It will be up to the petitioner to ask for that. But like I said, I think they got through June or July. Because it was either June or July of last year that they were renewed. So they're still within their year time frame.
Okay.
But yeah, we will certainly bring it back to the planning commission.
Well then, again, I'll entertain a motion to postpone this one until the May meeting.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
All right, is there a second?
I'll say.
Thank you. All in favor, right hand. All right, let's move on to the Heather Drive, and then this once again, Mr. Gillen, I believe. And there's time extension for Heather Drive subdivision plat 1, Heather Drive and D Drive. That is where Speaks and Associates as well. Time extension on this one. The sketch plan was approved in 2019, and Heather Drive subdivision plat 1 was approved in 2020. And just so we know, tell us about this.
Yeah, so this one,
I've been on Hunter Drive.
here's, it's 17 lots up front on an existing street. I think they do a little bit of sewer work, I think, before it gets complete, and they can plat the lots. I don't know the reason for the delay or anything. Again, petition's not here, but this one again was approved in June of 2020. So if it's the pleasure of the commission, you could postpone it to May. They would still have about a month beyond that for.
And this, where is it? I know what,
Rochester.
Rochester Apartments, right beside Chip Cleveland's office.
Okay, okay, got it.
That's Russell Lewis Center way up there.
Right, I knew I've been down it 100 times, I just, yeah. All right. So, are you suggesting we just, look at it again next meeting, or are we going to go ahead and let him have the extension until next year?
That's certainly up to the Plan Commission, although he's got two more, he's got time. Again, he's got 2 months on that year timeline, so it may be a good idea just to wait for him to come here, and you can ask the questions of him.
Well, we won't get them until next, I guess, next month, and we'll look at it, or 2 months, or what do we need to say?
I would suggest pushing it to the May meeting.
Maybe. All right, motion to move it to the May meeting. Thank you, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, all in favor, right hand. All right, good. We're going
If I can, I'd like to make a comment on, pass on the message we've had complaints about the overgrown lots there, if they could keep a very close eye on that one, it'd be much appreciated.
We can give him some encouragement.
All right, there's weeds still. That's something you consider. All right, is there any miscellaneous business? I believe there is.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we just want to have a discussion. So, ordinarily, we send an ad to the newspaper when there's going to be a public hearing for the Planning Commission. I don't know what's happened recently, but no microphone. I'm sorry that we've been having challenges getting advertisements into the paper. We send them in, and they won't run. So we start looking at that, and we're still having conversations with the newspaper company. But the state law doesn't require newspaper advertisements before most of the things that the Planning Commission does. You don't have to do it for zoning, you don't have to do it for a subdivision. And the discussion's been raised about if that's even necessary at all. So our current practice is when we follow state law, we post on the bulletin board out here. We send out certified letters to adjoining properties of preliminary plats. We also send out letters via regular mail to everyone within 500 feet of a plat, everyone within 500 feet of the rezoning. We put up those signs. You've seen? No, we didn't put the signs in the PowerPoint. So we have the big signs, that you can see from the highway, and then this year we went with larger yard signs than we had in the past. So we got a little bigger, just so they're more visible. We added our email address to them, so you have a phone number and email address you can contact if you want. So we just want to have a discussion on what's the Planning Commission's thoughts on the effectiveness or need or desire, I guess, for publishing in the newspaper.
Do we put it on our webpage, on the city webpage?
Yes, it goes on. We put the agenda out, when it's ready. So it's typically a couple of weeks before the meeting. We put a packet out. I always try to get it out Monday before the meeting. Draft packet, of course. So I say we utilize a lot of ways to get that information out. A lot of that, it's well above and beyond. As technology changes, we're always going to look for whatever the best way. We send an email out whenever for our monthly meetings, we send out emails, and any kind of special call, meeting like that, committee meeting, anything, we send out an email for those.
Does it cost the city to run an ad?
Run an ad? Oh, it does. It depends on the length. We probably spend a few $100s a month on ads. Not just planning commission, we have board adjustment, you know, so, I discussed, in fact, I talked to board adjustment Tuesday. Most of them were like, I don't want to look at the newspaper.
No, I know, but does anybody in here read the news? I mean, I get it on my phone, and I do get it, and I look at it. I don't always go through the legal ads, but I do get the regular paper on my phone, but I don't even know if they throw it in my yard or not, because generally I throw it in the trash can when I, you know, go to it. Do you read the paper every day?
Not every day.
I mean, I was just curious. I mean, because I would think that people were, you know, at one time, there was probably a requirement to have a watering trough in a place to tie your horse up right outside the building. But, I mean, things change and technology changes and things, you know, it might be something to look at that we want the message out to everyone, but we can't say, hey, you know, we can't rely on the fact that they're going to do it, and if it costs the city a couple $100 a month to run it, there might be a better way of getting the message out to everyone, whether it be social media or it be the board. I'm open for suggestions or thoughts.
Bulletin boards kind of antiquated now.
Yeah.
It kind of is, but we do it. Like I said, I'm always on the lookout for any of the new ideas or just technology. I keep considering maybe some kind of mapping program that might be kind of neat to just so you can see where in the city, and I'm still exploring that. Like I said, I think Laserfish has been a really good thing because we can get this, I don't know, this like 60-page packet, 50-page. It's a lot of information we're trying to share out there and make it accessible. The website, like I say, we want to get the message out there, but we want it to be effective, and I believe Mayor, efficient and effective is one of the phrases he likes. I don't know if the newspaper is either one of those nowadays. I don't know.
For the cost, it's not. No, I don't think.
Well, and I'll tell you, the recent headache is becoming a bit of an issue
Well, that's
too.
part of it. You're paying for it, and not even sure if you're getting it.
Is it something that we want to vote on now, or is it something we want to consider, or do you want to?
It's up to you. So your bylaws say you will follow the state code and Open Meetings Act, which we do.
Mm-hmm.
Then it opens it up for if you want to, if the secretary of the planning commission wants to utilize supplemental use, so like the signs. I mean, those aren't required. We do them again because we like people to know that hey, your neighbor's working on something, or this place you drive by every day is something's coming up. So and those are probably one more effective. It's funny, Tom and Darryl go out and put up signs, and then I'll get a phone call before they even back to the office sometimes. They're in the subdivision out here at Rite Aid, and you know, like they're like walking out the door, like, what are you doing? So the signs are one of the more effective things. And so I just try to get those out. But of course, those are just notification, hey, something's happening.
Yeah, I get calls when I have no idea what they're talking about.
Right, yeah, right. And we use those actually for all the boards now. They're kind of generic, but you know, Laserfish has we try to put all the packet information there, so the design of you can see the layouts, you can see the staff reports, the maps. So again, efficient and effective is what we want to be, and if spending the money on newspaper ads is just not the place to send it, we'll find out.
We need to get feedback from the community of what you want to go ahead and say, or are you prepared to say, hey, we're no longer going to put it on the newspaper? What's y'all's say? The whole committee, the whole committee here make a decision and look at it next month? We'll put it on the agenda for next month?
You can. I mean, I don't know. There's not, like I said again, there's nothing in writing that says you got to put it in the newspaper. I mean, if you just want to tell me stop it, I'll stop it. Like I said, we want the community to know what's going on, but again, we don't want to utilize a method that's not working for us.
Which newspaper do you use?
We've been using the Progress.
I mean, this is simple method to get the message across. Take your sign to Walmart, and put it on Facebook, and everybody will attend. They'll know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and social media, it's sometimes an effective way to get a message out.
I guess, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
So I guess out of abundance of caution, I think it probably might be best for it to be on the agenda and if possible, provide all of us with a Robert Rule of Order book so we'll be better versed in that as well.
all right. Anything else? Any adjourned?